All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network with me, your host, Josh Reeves. That was weird. Some weird ghosts in the machine, I suppose. There always is after we don't use this stuff for a while. Give me a second here. That was wonky. Okay. Well, hopefully everything sounded okay. Did this right when I mean, it's so strange sometimes how it does that, you know. This stuff will work great. No problems, no issues whatsoever. And then all of a sudden out of left field, sometimes it was getting some weird spiking. I don't know why. I shouldn't be getting any spiking like that. Let me look. I think it seems to look okay to me. I don't know. All right. Well, regardless of that. Hope everybody is well out there. This is the Monday edition of the broadcast. June the 9th, 2014. It still sounded wonky weird to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's my headphones. I don't know. Something sounds crackly. June 9th, 2014 into June 10th, 2014. Thanks for being with us here. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. I have been attempting to stave off impending doom and collapse of this show, my network, and all my work for the past week due to lack of support from our listening audience, which, you know, surprisingly is still larger than I thought it was. It's I don't really concern myself with numbers, listenership, and stats and all that. I never have been, but sometimes when I do look at that, it's shocking, and then it becomes even more shocking why we get, zero support for our work. But I have been trying to stave off that collapse for the past week. As I said in previous shows, the amount it now costs me to do all this per month is significantly less than what it used to be. It used to be $1,200, $1,300 a month. We were able to get it down to about $500 a month. So, but that's the minimum we need in here every month. So we did not reach that goal to pay the operating cost. So I have not had an opportunity to do any shows because I've been trying to spend every waking hour and every waking second trying to keep that from happening. And I've had some success, but not enough success. But we're still $200 shy on that. So essentially, here's the deal. If we get $200 in here in the next 24 hours, you're going to get shows all the rest of this week. And after that, I mean, unless there's just not, days when there's not material, obviously I won't be doing shows. But we can be back up and running here full steam ahead if we get $200 in minimum by tomorrow. And I know, this work and this show and what I do is worth at least that much to somebody out there. I mean, hell, four people, $50, 8 people, $25, whatever, however you want to slice it. And you can keep this from being the last show I ever do because I don't want it to be. Because, I get more fired up about this stuff every day. About all of this, And, you do get burnout from time to time. I mean, I do because I work 24/7 at this. But then I go through these periods where I get enthused about, one end or one specific piece of work or anything like that. But, as I've talked about before, with everything else I do, this radio show is it used to be the only thing that I really did for my efforts. But, now I'm doing so much more than that with the work that we have been doing with the Lost Secrets of Ancient America series. And not only that, my research is also expanding out into other things, that I haven't really even got up here and discussed a lot yet. I've discussed some of this stuff in the past, but 24 hours a day, I'm dedicated to this. And as I've stated before, the only time I can't be dedicated to it is when we're having to worry about whether or not we'll be able to stave off the collapse month to month. Hopefully we'll be able to find some new marketing options and some new advertising options and different things like that. Hopefully we can get that going and that'll help out some. But We've got to have the help of our listeners out there. As I said, $200, that's all we need to keep this thing going at this point. I mean, I've been busting my ass for the past week. And, I was able to get at least that much of it staved off. So go to my website, theglobalreality.com. Use the donate button there, and you can send any amount you want. 200 is what we need, but, hey, many hands make light work, and that's the problem. We had a lot of people just giving small amounts every month. We wouldn't have anything to worry about. So please help us be able to continue. And, I want to be doing radio shows, and I want to be doing this really strictly only because there's nothing else out there anymore, There really isn't. There just aren't enough people that are dedicated enough to the real info, and there aren't enough people that have enough discernment, strong discernment to be able to pick through, wade through, and just instinctively know what is propaganda, what is the truth and what isn't. Because really, that the lines of that are becoming more and more blurred intentionally every day. And so there's many things that, I don't know, sometimes there's just no easy way to say some of this stuff. You're about to say it, then you're like, ugh. There's just so much stuff out there that gets put out by outlets, entities, websites. People have this thing where they think that there's no propaganda, no lies, and no other hidden level in, what they perceive to be alternative news or whatever it may be. And there absolutely is another agenda that's serving that much greater agenda that you obviously found out about in some capacity that got you to the point where you are now interested in this type of research and work. And so much of this stuff gets put out as a way for them to try and get people to latch onto things that aren't true. I saw an article the other day. A bunch of people sent me this article. This is a good example. And I didn't even go read this article, to be honest with you. I just saw what the article said, saw a picture, and saw what website it was from, and said, I'm not going to believe that. Because, a lot of stuff, a lot of fake articles come out where they attempt to use fake, unvetted information and try to make it look legitimized so that people like you and me who are already into some, out there type of stuff, glob onto something and take it and use it as, to help try further our case. And I see so much stuff that gets put out all the time, and some of it you can tell it's directed towards stuff like what I talk about with the Lost Secrets films. This one I saw recently, and I should go back and look at this. Maybe maybe we'll just look it up here on the air and talk about it. I mean, fuck it, we've already gone this far. But it talked about it was some ancient carving. I don't know where it was said to be from. And supposedly in this ancient carving, they were saying that this, it's Greek. Okay. Ancient Greek artwork shows what appears to be a laptop computer with USB ports. Now, what's interesting about this, to me, and there's a video, time travel or alien tech. Okay, see, number one, the website is Before It's News. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Before It's News Benjamin Fulford's outfit? That is his website, isn't it? I mean, hasn't that been, before it's news, been Benjamin Fulford's website for years and years and years? Anyway, that website puts out some of the most blatant examples of made up stuff that on the surface seems to, back up a lot of the conspiracy theories and whatever it may be. And again, some of this stuff, you see it and you're like, wow, that proves our case. But you have to be careful, especially when you don't see any other sources with this same information. And Benjamin Fulford, if you don't know who that guy is, I mean, he's absolutely untrustworthy. Filmed that interview with himself a few years ago, with David Rockefeller. You don't get in the room with David Rockefeller unless you are in the club. Period. End of story. He can make up whatever story he wants and shill that out to his audience and expect them to believe it, and a lot of them do. But I'm here to tell you right now, folks, you do not get in the same room with David Rockefeller. And anyone that will lead themselves to believe that you can, without being connected to the very people you claim to be against, you're absolutely deluded. It's impossible. There's no way it could have happened, and you would not have gotten that much candid time with him, period, end of story, because these people evaluate everybody based on security risk, everything, status, before they're in the room with him. That's period, end of story. So Fulford had credentials from the beginning, and this guy, I mean, he's the most blatant disinfo this guy's ever put out. But at the same time, here's the flip side of it. At the same time, occasionally there is a truth nugget here. I mean, occasionally I see stuff that comes out from before it's news, and some of it will be, but that's what they all do. That's what Alex Jones does. Any of them do that. All the good disinformation artists do that. They mix the real stuff with the fake stuff, so that the average person that looks at it that doesn't have discernment, that person has no ability to be able to pick out what's good and what's fake. And I had this friend a couple of years ago who was heavy on that site, and he would come over to hang out, occasionally on the weekends. And every time I would see him on the weekends, it would just be, I would just have to sit there and it would be, I'd have to sit there and just debunk, rebut, whatever. He'd say, hey, did you hear about this, and this? And I'd be like, oh, God. Let me guess. Before it's news. Yeah, how'd you know? Because no other website puts out something with a title like you just said to me. Illuminati puts salamander creature in Benjamin Fulford's spine. See the picture. Yeah, he claimed that the Illuminati put some salamander creature. I'm not kidding. Google it. Benjamin Fulford, salamander creature. He claims the Illuminati put a salamander creature at his back to monitor him and had pictures of it and all this stuff. I mean, it's just hilarious stuff. But this thing you're calling a laptop, this Greek thing, and really to me, it kind of looks like a laptop. But it also looks like a tablet. So anyway, they're saying there's USB ports in it. Well, first off, USB ports aren't round. Second off, to me, again, if people paid attention to my work and paid attention to what I do, you'd see these things and know that immediately to me, they look like what I've been finding on artifacts all over the place, and that are these boreholes. And those look like the classic boreholes we see, and they're always in twos. And here they are on this thing. But again, see, they're spinning this as, this is ancient alien technology. This is a laptop. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if you paid attention to my research, paid attention to my work, watch my films, Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1 and Volume 2, watch my presentations that I put out for free on YouTube, you'd be able to take that information and see the bigger picture instead of just, speculating, this could be time travel or alien tech. So again, to me, it's a distraction. See, it's distracting you away from what you should be looking at. Now, is that intentional, or is that accidental just because they're not familiar with the work I've put out? It could be either one, couldn't it? But how do you know? See, that's just one example. But by telling you it's one thing, and being the only people who have put out an article about this, then you're able to control that particular piece of information because there's no rebuttal to it, and there's no other introduction of contrary information. And this, in a nutshell, is how all of this fake, phony, alternative media stuff works, and it works the same way that the regular mainstream stuff works. And, that's one of the things that I bring to the table. One of the many reasons why you should support my work, because I bring years and years and years of research and looking at this stuff and involvement in the research community and stuff like that for years and years and years now. And I have built up a mighty mean discernment. I mean, folks, I've had people come on the scene, and I'll hear this person or, hear something about this person one time, and I'll go, that person's a fucking, not trustworthy. And everybody in the world will tell me I'm wrong, and then it may take, a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, 4 years, 5 years. But in the end, everybody I've ever, for a second, thought was not on the level has all, in the end, turned out to be not on the level. And even people that I thought were on the level turned out to be not on the level. And by on the level, I mean not working for the interests of the corporate global controllers that we're supposed to be fighting against. And 98 to 99% of all the people I've encountered or work with in all this absolutely are falling under that category. And you can take that to the bank. I'm not going to name names because I've named them in the past. And these people know who they are anyway. And they know I got them. And that's one of the reasons why so many people out there have tried to just relegate me to the dunce cap corner of the room of the conspiracy research crowd, because they know that I'm the guy with the biggest voice who has the goods on the people that are claiming to be the good guys. And 98 to 99% of them are not. And they are working and conspiring to help the very agenda they claim to be against. And there are not very many other people like me out there with the knowledge, with the research experience, with the radio show experience, with the filmmaking experience, with all experience in all this. There are very few, if any, other people out there like me who has the ability to be a significant threat and a significant force in undermining the real control conspiracy. And that's why you need to make sure that I stay here. Because if I go away, it's going to get even uglier, and it is getting even uglier, and stuff I've been predicting for years and years and years is now coming true. I understand we get new people listening all the time. They haven't heard all my past shows, and I don't hold that against you at all. But, you can get a membership to my archives, and you can go and listen to, a couple of years, at least a couple of years up there worth on the archives. There's tons of stuff online. Archive.org has a bunch of old shows, YouTube. But, I get people who, they ask me questions about things. I tell you, I don't like going back and recovering stuff. Like, for instance, here's one I don't want to have to. I don't mind talking about the subject, but I'm not going to go through all the rules, because at this point, for me, if you can't figure out, what's up with Alex Jones, I can't really help you there. I've done thousands of hours of radio on everything about that guy, all the facts. I've made 2 films about it. You know, I mean, my thing is, I had somebody recently send me an email and ask me, you know, oh, I like your show and I like this, that, and the other, but I also like Alex Jones, and I want to know why you don't like him and all this, that, and the other. And for me, it's really obvious at this point. But if it's not obvious to you and you want to really find out what I think about it, because I'm not going to go through the whole spiel again, it'd take hours and hours to do because there's so much. You can go watch my films, the Secret Right Volume 1. You can download that. Actually, we put out just a few months ago, we put out a new remastered, first time ever offered in full HD version of the Secret Right Volume 1, which was released in 2009. You can download that, purchase that at my website, theglobalreality.com. You can also get Volume 2 of The Secret Right. It's up, both films are actually up for free on YouTube, but they're not they're not really great quality, especially Volume 1. It's not really good quality. But you can get the download of Volume 1 off my website in HD for $10. I mean, that's cheap. You know, get yourself that. Start with that. Watch both of those films. Then you can go to, you know, Google and type in Josh Reeves, Alex Jones, and I'm sure you'll find a bunch of stuff there with me talking about it. You know, the real thing about it is that, I'll tell you this. If I had to just say one thing, and you can go look into this all you want, his connections to the CMP are well documented by me and others. But really, the long-time connection to an almost umbilical in nature, his connection to the GCN, Genesis Communications Radio Network, which is has a front man who's actually, he's, you know, not really the real front man. You can look into Adnan Khashoggi and look at all his connections to Minnesota, where that broadcast originates from, at GCN. Look at all the Adnan Khashoggi. Look him up, first off. Ask Alex Jones why he never talks about Adnan Khashoggi. Adnan Khashoggi's been connected to every major world event over the past 50-plus years. He provided the arms in the Iran-Contra trading thing in the 80s. He funded the 9/11 hijackers, alleged 9/11 hijackers, funded those guys. He's one of the biggest power players in the world. He's an untouchable. And he created a bunch of basically shell corporations, all with the name Genesis in them, all based in Minnesota, all based in the same place that Alex Jones Radio Network, Genesis Communication Radio Network, originates from. You know, he had Genesis this, Genesis Media, Genesis Dry Cleaners, Genesis, just hundreds and hundreds of these names, all with Genesis in it. And one of the key elements of Adnan Khashoggi's business front that use the name Genesis is this thing that he really perfected and created was creating these companies as fronts to sell life-enhancing products, miracle products, basically snake oil in a nutshell, but not all snake oil. But basically just, you know, bullshit products that aren't real companies. All the little companies are companies that sell things that he owns. So it's like a shell company within a shell company type thing. And we found this out a few years ago when we were trying to get sponsors. We'd go and look at Alex Jones sponsors, and we'd call some of these sponsors and try to get sponsored with them. You could tell after you talked to these people for a while, they weren't a real company. They were just basically phony front companies that ran the operations of delivering the products that they advertise on the Alex Jones show. So Adnan Khashoggi created this entire model that, lo and behold, Alex Jones's business models identically. It's the same setup. Water filters, you know, miracle creams, miracle pills, whatever it may be. It's the same model. Now, if you want to say that's coincidence, riddle me this, Batman. the guy who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Okay? Look that guy up. Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. This book was written by a gentleman by the name of John Gray. Now, John Gray, you can look all this up and verify this yourself. And again, I'm giving you the main reason in my mind why Alex Jones should not be trusted. Here's the main thing that ties together the Cassiogi Jones connection with GCN. Hook, line, and sinker. John Gray, who wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, got his book funded, and the book was published. You can look this up as well. The book was published by the Genesis Media Corporation, an Adnan Khashoggi front company. Adnan Khashoggi gave him a bunch of money and funded his book, and he became mega huge and made tons of money that Khashoggi then got a cut of. Well, a few years after that happened, all of a sudden John Gray comes out and he's a 9/11 truther. Guess who the first show is that he goes on? You guessed it, Alex Jones. Oh, you think for a second that's a coincidence? It's a coincidence that someone completely unrelated to Alex Jones or anything else gets funding from Khashoggi, turns around and all of a sudden decides to become a conspiracy theorist, and then next thing you know, he's going on GCN? Look into Adnan Khashoggi. This guy is one of the most serious guys in the whole power structure. He's the type of guy that they call when they want to do a 9/11 or an Iran-Contra or a Kennedy. One of the tip-top of the tip-top. And you'll never hear Jones mention his name, talk about him, and he's been involved in virtually, a good portion of a lot of the big events that have occurred over the past 50 years. That's mainstream documented stuff, folks. So beyond any shadow of a doubt, Alex Jones is controlled and serving the very people he claims to be against. And when you look at all the people that were involved in the Iran-Contra affair, being members of the Council for National Policy, the CNP, and you see the connection with Khashoggi, again, you think that's a coincidence? Oh, it just happens that a majority of these CNP guys, a lot of them who were guests on Jones' show and whatnot, that's another coincidence, too. He's got connections to this group, but here's the connections to Khashoggi as well. Khashoggi, the one providing the guns, the arms. I mean, what did Oliver North do after all that? He went to Fox News. I mean, Alex Jones's title alone, InfoWars, you know where that comes from? Information warfare, right? Information warfare was a operation. It was a term that was coined in a book written by Paul Vallely and Michael Aquino. And at the time, Paul Vallely was the head of psychological warfare for the Army. He went on to be the senior military analyst for Fox News. He coined the term information warfare and talked about convincing the American public that there was an outside threat that they had to unite against to fight, and then can also convince the American public that if they did band together to fight this outside threat, they could win. They did this with 9/11. They now are doing this, using Alex Jones to do this. And they called that specific type of effect, convincing the American public there was a outside threat they could unify against, and also convincing them that they could defeat it if they did unite. They called that information warfare, InfoWars. Alex Jones has become the very person that is now leading that psychological warfare campaign of convincing the American public there's an outside threat to them, the New World Order, the banksters, whatever it may be. And he's also the main guy convincing the public that if they do this, they can win. In order to get armed conflict, in order for them to be able to have a police state, declare martial law, and do away with all of our rights permanently. And everything Alex Jones always talks about them doing, yet he is the one who is bringing the very things he claims to be fighting, folks. He's the one that's single-handedly bringing it in. Information warfare. Look up that book, Mind War. Look up the Mind War documents. Mind War. That was the book. Paul Vallely, Michael Aquino. Look up Mind War. That's where the term InfoWars, information warfare, which is what InfoWars is short for, that's where they first used it. And I believe Paul Vallely's been on Alex Jones' show before. He's another one of these guys that's involved with the same people. He's the enemy, folks, and he works and serves the enemy. And if you can't see it and understand it at this point, there's nothing else I can tell you. It's serious business, folks. Serious business. I never wanted to have to come to grips with any of this. It scared the fuck out of me when I first found out that the conspiracy movement, the truth movement, and all that stuff was just another level of control. I mean, I didn't feel duped the first time around. Part of me's always really known my whole life instinctively that the world was not what we were told it is. I've really known that from a very, very early age. But to find out that, what you thought was the revolution was just another level of the control system, and seeing the hard, cold, factual reality of that through research. I wasn't prepared for it. It knocked me on my ass. And folks, I could have sold out. I could have chosen to never talk about any of this, to never bring it up, to never make movies about it, to keep my mouth shut about it. And if I had, I would have been up there at the top of the fake, phony, alternative media people right now. I'd probably be coming on every day right after Alex Jones, making millions just like he does. And it came down to a conscious decision. And I knew it. I knew I had at that moment, I knew I had the decision. And you bet your ass I thought about it for a second. I did. I'm not going to lie to you. Of course I did. Of course I thought maybe I should just keep my mouth shut about this. But I don't want anything in life but the truth. I don't want cars. They can't buy me. That's the problem with me. All I want is enough to keep the lights on, to be able to make these films. That's it. That's all I want out of life. I'd love to make enough to be able to buy a house of my own someday, so I don't have to keep making the landlord rich. Other than that, there's nothing else I want. And I've had to sit back here and watch everybody just be duped and not want to listen to me because they want to judge me on whatever stupid, superficial things they want to judge me on. I wouldn't even be putting myself out there to be judged and hated on or whatever else for any other reason if it wasn't for the truth. And that's the problem I have with the majority of these hucksters. They're not out there for the truth. They're not interested in the truth. I'll be honest with you. I think the majority of people out there are not interested in the truth. I think a lot of our listening audience is not interested in the truth. I think a lot of people think they are, but I don't think every single person in our listening audience gives a shit about the truth. Because I know for a fact, if as many people out there really cared about the real truth, there are people that just want that version of truth that's comfortable to them. If you go past that threshold, they're done. Well, there are a lot of people that are willing to accept a lot of this stuff. But when you start getting to certain points, and that's what it's designed to do, folks. You don't think I've had those moments many times? And that's a good thing. I wear it as a badge of honor because it lets me know I'm on the right track. If I don't get scared for a minute, at least a couple times a month when I'm doing research, I need to go do some more research. Because there's always a new piece of information that'll just give you that fucking sinking feeling in your stomach for a minute. I don't give a damn how cast iron of a gut you got. I got the strongest of them all. But, people have got to get over this thing, this believability thing. I mean, even people who are awake to a lot of this stuff, they have that threshold where they just can't go past. If you haven't figured this out by now, let me be the first to break it to you. This stuff is way more insane, way more crazy sounding, and way more real than any of us have any idea about, regardless of your level of enlightenment. That's one thing, folks, I can tell you beyond any shadow of a doubt is a fact. Is there stuff out there that I won't talk about and discuss? You goddamn right there is. There's some stuff that's for you, and there's some stuff that's for the world. And I'll tell you what, like everybody else, I got some stuff I just won't talk about to anybody. Because what good would it do? Would it change anything? Not a damn thing. So that's the one thing you have to understand. I mean, so if you experience some things or see some things or whatever it may be, it's not your duty to tell the world about it. Some things are just meant for you, and you're not meant to ever talk about it. That's the way it is. But so much of this stuff that I believe about all of this information, I found not just from researching and finding information and then coming to conclusions and believing that to be true. No. I believe a lot of what I believe because I've seen it for myself. I don't get up here all the time and talk about people being, shapeshifters or, reptoids or anything else, but I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen evidence that that's true. You can call me crazy. You can say it's wacky all you want. I've seen it. I saw former House Majority Leader Tom DeLay. I saw his eyes roll over black like a reptilian right in front of me. Live on 5, baby. I saw it. I don't care if you believe me or not. I don't give a rat's ass. It doesn't make a fuck if you believe me. It doesn't make a fuck if anybody believes me. You know why? Because I saw it. I lived it, and I know it's true. I mean, it's a true story. Back in 2007, I started the 9/11 Truth Movement in Dallas. There was no 9/11 Truth Movement in Dallas until I started. And then I quit it as well, and it continued on. I think it's maybe even still going, but I quit it back in 2007. Started it in like 2005, 2006, and then, as people do, they become money hungry, and they become about the truth. They just want money. So I didn't want any part of that. Quit that, and then very shortly after that, within a matter of probably a week or two, I was on air doing radio. Been going ever since. But right before that, we had went to a Barnes & Noble to do a confrontation on Tom DeLay. We were going to, during his speech and the questions, we were going to ask, something about 9/11 and get it on film or whatever. So we had gone in this Barnes & Noble beforehand, and it was like they knew we were coming. I hadn't told anybody we were going to do this. We go in there, and as soon as we walk in this Barnes & Noble, he hasn't even got there yet. I mean, we got there like an hour early. We get in there just to go look around, see where he's going to be at and whatever, and we get followed immediately. I mean, I've been in a billion Barnes & Nobles, but I've never gotten followed by a guy with a walkie-talkie and a suit on. Have you? That's not standard operating procedure for Barnes & Noble. And that was confirmed after we walked through the store and walked out, and he followed us all the way out to the parking lot. And we were kind of standing by the car, and I was smoking a cigarette, and he's standing there talking on his CB, staring right at us. So it's obvious, he knows why we're there. Probably didn't help that I had on a shirt that said, "What happened to World Trade Center Building 7?" And the person was with me had a shirt on that said, "Controlled demolition," and had a picture of a building falling down. That probably didn't help anything either. We walked in with that on. So we're standing out there by the car. I'm smoking a cigarette, and I see this SUV pull up about 4 cars down from us. And as soon as it pulled in, I got this overwhelming feeling over me, even though I didn't know for a fact. As soon as it pulled in, it was like a vibe change. And I said, "That's him right there." And a couple minutes later, sure enough, here comes Tom DeLay. And he's walking right towards us. And he says, "How y'all doing?" I said, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" "Pretty good." And this guy walks in front of us with a headset on and puts his arms out in front of us like he's blocking us. Like you can't get near him. And we weren't trying to get near him. We were just standing there talking. And he's like, "Oh, it's okay. You don't have to stand in front of them." And right about then, I was going to say something. And he looked down at my shirt, looked down at the person who was with me's shirt, and his face turned dark blood red. Then he looked at me. He had his eyes were rolled over, completely black. He scanned me up and down, scanned the person that was with me up and down. Eyes went back to normal. He said, "Y'all have a nice day." And he walked inside the Barnes & Noble. And I proceeded to flip my shit. We didn't even bother even going in and doing anything and trying to even ask a question or anything after that. I mean, once you see that, and I think that's the reason he did it in retrospect. I didn't at the time. Now in retrospect, that's why he did it. He's like, "I'm just going to get rid of these motherfuckers right now. Watch this." Once you see that, and it was funny too, because months after that happened, I saw something online where somebody was talking about people that were reptilians, and it said, I don't forget what they called him. It was something hilarious, like, high level reptilian overlord Tom DeLay. And I went, I think I don't know. I don't know if it's reptilian. I don't know what it is. All I know is there are people who are not human walking among us. And I had a very interesting situation like this happen to me with Alex Jones. Now, for those of you who don't know my story, before I found out about the Council for National Policy from former Canadian diplomat Peter Dale Scott on my second radio show ever. It's on YouTube. You can go out there and find that. I was back then, I was Mr. Gung-Ho all into the truth movement back then. I liked Alex Jones. I thought he was the real deal, like a lot of people do. And I even won Alex Jones's first 9/11 Truth video contest in 2007. He had a video contest called Push the Truth, and I won first place, and got a big box of Alex Jones movies and $1,000 in cash from the enchilada himself. And that funded my first film, 9/11 New World Rising. That's what that did. So, yeah, I mean, I was, all about the guy. So this was 2007 when this happened, right? But back in 2006, when I was still a big fan, before I'd started doing a radio show, at that point I had just started working on what would become my first film, even though at the time it wasn't a 9/11 movie. It kind of morphed into that later. And at the Lakewood Theater in Dallas, where I, a year later, would show my 9/11 New World Rising film with William Rodriguez there, Alex Jones premiered his film Terror Storm. And before the film, he gave a speech. And before the film, he gave a speech, and Jim Mars gave a speech as well. And then after they gave their speeches, they showed the film. And I went out. I was going outside. I was talking to some other people that I knew that were other researchers and stuff that I knew at the time that were there. And I went up to go to the bar to get a drink, and I was waiting in line at the bar. And at this theater, it used to be an old movie theater. They had the little booth, where the ticket person would be, give them their money, they give you a ticket. And the little booth was still there. It was right next to where the bar was, and I was walking up to get a drink, and I look over, and there's Alex Jones. Again, at this time, I was not on the air. I did not know about the CMP. I didn't even have a website. I didn't have anything. I was nothing but just a fan. I was trying to do. I was doing local 9/11 Truth stuff. But I was, a huge Alex Jones fan. I mean, that's why I was there. And, at some point I was hoping to get a chance to talk to him and meet him or something. So I'm standing in line, I'm waiting, and I kind of look over, and there's Alex Jones, and he's sitting in this ticket booth counter, and he's looking directly at me. But the fact that he's looking directly at me is not what's odd. What's odd is that he's looking directly at me, and he looks deranged. He looks out of his fucking mind. And he's going, he's gritting his teeth. His eyes are all bugged out. He's going, and he's sitting there. And at first I kind of giggled. I was like, I thought he was like, fucking with me or something. I thought he was like, yeah, I'm hungry for, fight the New World Order. I thought he was like growling like that, or you know him. He's fucking out of his mind. Well, so I kind of giggled, and I was like, and because I kind of looked the other way, don't want to look like I'm looking at him, So I'm kind of waiting. And I look back over there. I don't look over there for a good 10, 15 seconds at least. But I kind of try to ignore him, And I look back over there, and he's still doing it, and he's looking dead at me, and he's looking more deranged. And I was like, "What's up, Alex? What's going on, dude?" And I'm looking around, like wondering if anybody else around me is seeing this. And because I was in line, no one was with me that I knew. And I'm kind of looking around the room, going, "Is anybody else in here seeing this?" And nobody was. I look back over, he's still. I mean, he really looked like a demon. He looked demonic. Right when I got about to where he was in line to get my drink, he got up and walked away and walked outside. And I remember at the time being fucking freaked out, man. It really wigged me out. Because like I said, at first, I thought he was just fucking with me or just being, being a crazy motherfucker out like he is. And then I realized for a minute, he didn't look like he was there. It looked like he was possessed by something. And it really bothered the shit out of me. And then later, years later, I realized, man, was he, is he possessed by a demon or something? Does this demon have the ability to know the future? Did that happen because this entity, whatever's in him, knew that eventually I would be the main source of exposing him? Because like I said, at the time, I did not think. I didn't think for a second that Alex Jones wasn't on the up and up. I thought he was 100% the real deal. And I went to this event because I was, excited about meeting him and seeing the film. And I mean, it was bizarre. I mean, I kept looking away and looking, oh, he's just joking. He's fucking with me or whatever. And no, he's, I mean, gnashing his teeth. And then I saw him later, and he was drunk as fuck. He was drinking Jack and Coke. And he was really drunk. And it was weird because every time I'd kind of be in a situation where I'd almost be able to talk to him, he would never look at me, and he'd walk the other way. Like he was intentionally avoiding me. And, at the time, I just thought it was just, weird, strange, whatever happens. But, man, in retrospect, now looking back on it, he somehow could see the future. Or the demon or whatever it is that's in him could see it. I don't know. But when Peter Del Scott, when we were talking about think tanks and stuff, we were talking about the CMP or not the CMP, we were talking about the CFR and Trilateral Commission, the sort of regular ones that everybody talks about. And he stopped me and he said, well, those groups actually aren't as powerful as they used to be. What you need to look into is this group called the Council for National Policy, the CMP. They were started in Dallas, he said, which I later found actually wasn't true. But yeah, they have strong ties to Dallas nonetheless. Lots of members of it live here. Lots of ties to Texas. They've had some of the meetings and stuff in here in Dallas and in Austin too, a lot, and in Houston as well. And he said that, they control, they're more powerful than the CFR. They control both sides. And at the time, when I couldn't really, he was coming through kind of crackly, whatever we were using back then, Skype or whatever to bring him in was just, wasn't as good as it is now. So it was kind of crackly on coming through my headphones. So I couldn't really hear at the time what he said. When I listened to the rebroadcast later, I heard him say this group's name. I went back and listened to it again, and I could hear what he said. And then I went and looked that up. And needless to say, after I initially looked up the CMP and started doing some research and finding out some stuff, I didn't sleep for about 3 days. Literally did not sleep for about 3 days. And I had quite a few freakouts during that time, especially when I started finding out that people, it couldn't be a coincidence that this group, the CMP, has had so many current, former, or past members that all were regular guests on the Alex Jones show at the time. Like not Peter Del Scott, but Prune Face, Paul Craig Roberts. I noticed Red Eye started having him on. That should tell you everything you need to know about those guys now. Paul Craig Roberts, the list goes on and on. You can go watch my film, see all those people. But all sort of noticing, my goodness, Pat Buchanan. I mean, he was one of the biggest main CMP guys. And, Jones talked many times about how he worked for the Buchanan presidential campaign. Even before he was on radio, that right there alone should tell you. I mean, they were grooming him for years and years and years. And the moment the transition happened, because I remember, I can remember the days of the conspiracy culture before Jones was prevalent in it. And it was nothing like it is now. In good ways and in bad ways. I mean, back then it was stuff that's just, commonplace, knowledge. Now was really shunned upon even talking about. I mean, people used to think, I am not making this up. I'm not exaggerating this. I lived it, man. I was there. But every time I tell somebody this, they laugh at me like I'm exaggerating this. Let me tell you something. Back in the 1990s, if you even talked about the Bilderberg Group, talking about the Bilderberg Group or any group at all that of a small amount of elite people that pull the strings on the planet, you were certifiable. Certifiable, folks. Even the mention of the Bilderberg Group back then, people would look at you like you were insane. Literally insane, like you should be committed. I'm not exaggerating. And now it's so commonly known that we take it for granted and people are becoming apathetic to it. This is part of their plan. This is why you're going to see them start to let more and more of this information leak out. It's all a part of the agenda. But I can remember back then, it was not about guns and armed conflict and trying to divide and people being divided. It was strictly about knowledge and information and trying to find the truth. It was not about let's build bug out bunkers and let's talk about Keynesian economics till the cows come home. And it wasn't about any of that stuff. It was about the truth. And Bill Cooper got on his show on the day of 9/11 and told everybody, the day of 9/11, look, I don't know what's going on with this right now. We don't have all the facts, all the information yet. All I can tell you is that whatever Alex Jones says about this 9/11 thing, don't believe a word of it. A month later, they shot Bill Cooper in his front yard, and Alex Jones went on to become the titular head of the 9/11 Truth Movement not too long after that. And then it started to become all about Alex deciding for everyone what topics were kosher to talk about and which ones weren't. And he let everybody know immediately, talking about UFOs and whatever else and ancient mysteries, that's not kosher. We're talking about what I say we're going to talk about, and if you talk about anything outside of that, you're a spook or a fed or anything else. Don't talk about the no plane theory on 9/11. Don't talk about aliens, this, that, and the other. They started to redefine and then create a wall for what it was accepted and not accepted. And if you try to do that in any kind of a research community, it should be clear right away what you are. Because a research effort is not something that can be constrained by limitations of talk about this conspiracy over here, but don't talk about that. That's what has given the power structure the ability to be able to continue what they've been doing for as long as they have, because they have quelled and contained, for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, they have quelled and contained any subversive element that may be a threat to them information-wise. And you bet your ass it is information warfare, and it's more like disinformation warfare, and you can bet your ass that Alex Jones is the head of that. Again, talk about enough stuff that's true, and then redirect the conversation away from the things that aren't comfortable to the power structure. And he's the best at it. And fuck you, damn you, I don't mean fuck you really, but damn you to the person who fucking asked me this. You know, I don't like talking about this shit. I've talked about it too much. Well, that's the facts. Again, I've seen this stuff for myself. I've done my homework. I'm not one of these people that just randomly hates on Alex. There's a lot of people that hate on people because they're jealous and they want what he has, and they're jealous of his position. You know, I've never been jealous of the guy. I'm not jealous of the guy at all. I want the truth. And he's misrepresenting the truth and parading himself out to the world as some harbinger of truth, meanwhile making anyone else who is looking for the truth look guilty by association with his antics. That's another edge of the sword. Everything about him discredits every other researcher, every other voice, every other person trying to do real homework and do real work in this. I mean, I have spent years proving beyond any shadow of a doubt he's an operator for the power structure he claims to be against. Again, if you can't see that for yourself at this point, I don't know what else to tell you. You know, we barely need $500 a month to operate here. This guy pulls in like $1.5 million a month. He lives in a $5 million mansion in a gated community in Austin. The only way you get rich doing this stuff is two ways. Fearmonger and fearmongering and lying, and that's what he does. But fearmongering is the main thing. Sell fear and then sell products that help, that can be used towards, this thing you're being sold on. I have always been about nothing but the truth. And I could have sold out years ago, and I never did. And I don't want millions, and I don't want a $5 million house. I don't want any of that. But you have to know that I have to keep on keeping on, and I have to keep going. And I can't do that without some serious financial support. And if I go away, folks, and my voice goes away, and there isn't somebody with the knowledge and the years of expertise in the field of these phonies and these fakes like Jones and many, many others, there's going to be no resistance to the second level of the tyranny these people are bringing in that serves the main one that we all already know about. And the stuff we're doing with the Lost Secrets films exposes the grand conspiracy on a much larger scale. I mean, we're going to have an opportunity to show hard evidence of giants existing in this country. But I don't have $3,000 or $4,000 to finish this film. I don't even have $200 to keep my radio show going. But I can if you have your help to do it. I mean, if every one of you out there right now went to my website and donated whatever amount you could, even if it's a small amount. If every single person listening to this show went and donated the maximum amount they could afford to donate, we would never have to worry about anything. But I'm one of the last of a dying breed, folks. If I go away, it's going to be a wash. And these guys are ramping this stuff even more. Everything I've told you about is going to happen for the past years and years and years is happening now. How long have I told you that there was going to be some staged provocateur incident that would be blamed on Alex Jones and company that would then be used to kick off and would be used as a fire starter to kick off this armed conflict? Look what happened in Vegas this weekend. Folks, if that's not a carbon copy, there was two. There was another one. Where was the other one at? Same thing. They called the guy, you said he was connected to conspiracy theorists. Whatever the two most recent shootings are. Beyond any shadow of a doubt, these are absolutely controlled operations. Because, see, the truthers and the Alex Jonesers have been too slow to action. They've had, they had the Edna Lane Brown thing back in 2007. They had the most recent thing with the guy in Nevada. They had the, on and on and on, all the different situations, all the controlled operations they've had to try to initiate armed conflict. And since the people that they want and the players that they want to participate in this won't stand up and do it, they are now pushing it to happen with their controlled operations. And the ones that we've seen, these shootings we've seen most recently, are an attempt to do that. They want to set fire to all these fumes that are waiting to be set fire to kickstart and jumpstart this armed revolution conflict that so far everybody else has been smart enough not to initiate yet. Well, that's not good enough for them. They want it quicker than that. I promise you, folks, in the coming months and days and years, you're going to be glad you had a voice like me around. The stuff that's going to be happening, you're going to need me around to be able to discern and dissect for you. Because it's going to get crazier very soon. And if somebody like me with the years of experience I have looking at this subject is not there to be able to tell you the pitfalls and what to watch out for. I mean, I hate to think what's going to happen. I'm in a very unique position here, and so are all of you. Because a few years ago, I wasn't where I am now, and where I am now is really one of the last of the Mohicans, one of the last real people that's going to be able to tell you the what from the what not when it comes to these phony alternative media hucksters and the rest of it. And eventually, they'll move Jones into the Rush Limbaugh position. That's what they've been trying to do for years. When you see them move Alex Jones into the Rush Limbaugh position, you will know at that time that the final stages of the initiation of the new American Civil War will be coming not far behind. And I think that's probably going to happen real soon. They've been grooming him for it. I mean, why do you think, the connections with Jones and the CMP are important? Because Limbaugh is in the group as well. I mean, there you go. They have been grooming him for this for years, probably even longer than he even knows about. Please visit my website, folks, theglobalreality.com. We have a donate button there. We have films for sale. We have radio membership archives for sale. Help us get $200 in here in the next 24 hours so we can keep this thing going. More than that would be even better. All right. Let's make it happen. If you can make it happen, I can be back here tomorrow night, and I will be back here tomorrow night. If it doesn't, I guess I won't. We're going to wrap it up for here tonight, and we'll be back here tomorrow night, pending we get a minimum of $200, and we'll get into some news and probably some more reading and the rest of that stuff. If not, we won't. But hopefully we'll see you then, folks. Take care.